Welcome to a Tell Me a Story, brought to you by the Friends of the Sandwich Town Archives, otherwise known as Foster. My name is Joan Osgood, and I'm a member of the volunteer group, Friends of the Sandwich Town Archives. I want to thank Sandwich Community TV and Paula Johnson for filming this for us. Today, I think we have a very interesting guests, Sandwich natives, the Walker brothers, both John and Bob. Robert, Bob, right?
Bob's good.
Bob's good,
Yeah.
although sometimes I call him Bobby, but probably Bob is better. And we're going to be talking about their life in Sandwich. They're both natives growing up in Sandwich. So perhaps we'll begin initially with talking about your father's name, where he grew up, and give us a little history of that before we transition into your mom.
Okay. Our dad's name was Jeffrey Walker, Jeffrey Wood Walker. He grew up in Stoughton.
In Stoughton?
In Stoughton. And he came here. He was stationed at the Coast Guard station on the canal when he went into the Coast Guard. And that's how he ended up here.
That's how he ended up. What about a little bit about his life in Stoughton? He went to school. He graduated from, I think you had told me.
He went to the Fessenden Academy.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and Governor Dumner, which is now, I think they just call it Dumner Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His mother, her father was an industrialist, came from England.
Oh.
He started an elastic web company.
Now this is your father's father.
No, this is my father's grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, on
Yep.
his mother's side.
Yes.
Yeah. And he had an elastic web company and actually had factories in Easton, Stoughton, and Brockton at one time. And then right before he sold the company in the 60s, they built a factory in North Carolina.
Wow.
They made all sorts of elastic web for garments and airplane struts for the World War I airplanes and things like that. Yeah, so so that's the environment he grew up with,
But for whatever reason, didn't go into that.
he did not. It was winding down by
Yes.
that point. It was winding down, and the founder, J.W. Wood, he at that point was looking to sell the company and then take his assets and protect them.
Is the company still going? No?
Not as an elastic
Yeah.
web company. There's an investment company that grew out of it, and that investment company still operates.
So that's the environment your dad grew up in.
Yeah.
But I think you told me, and your family wanted him to go off to college, which would be understandable. That didn't happen.
Did not. No.
Okay.
We're not 100% sure on what the cause of that was, but he went into the Coast Guard. He loved boating.
Yes.
Boating was a big deal with that family too, and he loved it. And so he followed. I guess he followed his heart at that
He
point.
followed his heart,
Yeah.
certainly,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, our grandfather, his father had a boat called Booty, which was my Nana's nickname.
Oh,
And so
okay.
they're always on the water, always doing stuff. So that's what he loved to do. So
Yeah.
he's in the Coast Guard. And
So was it one of his first postings to come to Sandwich in the Coast Guard?
His only posting, which
his
was
only posting.
unusual, very unusual at that time. Well, he went to Cape May for their boot camp, and then got posted to Canal Station. And that's where he spent the rest of his time as an active duty Coast Guardsman in the late 50s.
I was just going to ask you, the late 50s.
Yeah.
Okay. So here he is in Sandwich. He may have known the Cape, and he may have even come to Sandwich before, but certainly now he's stationed in Sandwich, where your mom lived.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your mom.
high school basketball star.
Even at her height.
Yeah.
Even at her height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was,
Diminutive.
okay.
Diminutive.
Diminutive,
Yeah.
okay, but she was over 5 feet. I remember it very well, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, she and I mean, Ed Zion was a wonderful, wonderful coach, and those girls, those years, they won every
Everything.
year. Every year they were winning. The Mielik sisters, she
I
played
was
with
going
them.
to ask if you remembered any of the girls that played with her.
Yes, Mielik sisters, Ron Karate, who
Would that have been?
that one that I think that married Fizzy Kroll.
That one that, okay,
Yes.
yes, Judy.
Yeah, she
Judy, yeah.
played.
Judy, yeah, she was a great basketball
Yeah.
player, yeah.
Anyone else that you?
No, those Judy Kroll, or that was one I was thinking of.
Yeah, yeah, of course, the Mielix girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Now, and Ed Zion, you know, everyone that played, he was pretty much strictly the girls' coach. They had other teachers that coached the boys in high school, and he also taught, oh gosh, I think he taught 7th grade, as I remember. So, yes, he really knew how to bring out the talent in his players, and it doesn't surprise me at all that during your mom's stay there, probably she, you know, probably was in the basketball right from 7th grade or 9th grade up until probably senior high. But you shared with me that she was very athletic, not just
Yeah.
with basketball.
Gymnastics,
In
dance.
gymnastics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bunch of the programs at home, but you'd be over in Buzzards Bay. Apparently Buzzards Bay was a place to be at that time.
Oh.
Doing all these little shows, you know, and
Gymnastics
gymnastics and dance.
and dance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They must have had a studio over there
Yeah.
of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we've mentioned your mom's name.
Oh, Donna Cahoon.
Donna Cahoon.
Yeah.
Did she have a middle name?
Donna Lee.
Okay.
Donna Lee Cahoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she, not only in basketball, but she really excelled in gymnastics too, you shared with me, that perhaps she could have even gone on further.
Yeah,
with
her mother, Mildred Cahoon, told us that her opinion, she could have gone to the Olympics. You know,
Yeah.
according to, you know, the people that had helped train her and so forth. But, you know, you don't know, but she was very, very active. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did they meet?
Not 100% sure. Unless
Yeah.
you got something
I
on
got
me.
nothing on that one.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
At some point, I'm
It
sure.
was a small town.
It was a
Yeah.
small town.
Yes.
The you know, the Coast Guard guys. There was also Air Force crash boats down there at the time.
Oh.
So there was a little bit of a military community down there around the big entrance of the canal, and I'm sure that they went everywhere in town looking for girls. You know,
Yes.
I'm sure they did. And,
Right. Right.
So yeah, they met at some point, and
And that would have been
late 50s.
Late 50s?
She graduated in 57, and at that time she was, I believe, dating Paul Quirk.
sure.
Or had some,
Another native name.
some
Yep.
sort of relationship with him.
Yeah.
But by 59, she's married to my dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sometime after 57, prior to 59, they started seeing each other.
Do you know where they got married in town?
Yeah, same church I got married in, the Elvis Church.
The Elvis
The
Church.
Elvis Church, yeah.
The Elvis
yeah.
Church. Yeah. Explain that to people, if you will.
The-
Why you're calling it the Elvis
The
Church?
First Church of Christ around the corner from where we grew up on Water Street has a beautiful spire on it.
Yes.
And the Christopher Wren Church is also known as, and Elvis put it on the cover of his gospel album in the early 60s, was it, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why sometimes we'll let it go. It's the Elvis Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made it famous in town.
Yeah.
To be, to have a structure in Sandwich be on the cover of Elvis Presley's record. That was quite something. Yeah. So they were married there, and probably had a nice reception.
At the Clipper.
Oh, at the Clipper.
At the Clipper.
At the Yankee Clipper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Now that is no longer, of course, but where is that located for people that might not be familiar with it?
It's now a co-op for a antique dealer, right at the corner of Jarvis and Route 6A.
And Route 6A.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And of course.
Next to the gas station.
Yep.
That
And
still exists as a gas station. There were more gas stations at that corner.
Yes.
Right, there were 3, I believe.
Oh, were there really? Now let's name.
This is the one across, which now is the Builders. It's across from Russell's Market.
Right.
What used to be Russell's Market, and now it's a building. Isn't
Yeah,
it
that was
Builders?
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a builder. He's a builder
Yeah.
in there.
Dr. Lewis had a Jaguar in there.
Oh no.
12-cylinder Jaguar that was parked in there for a couple of years.
He was famous for his Jaguars,
Yeah,
wasn't
I remember that. My dad were over there doing something.
Yeah.
And they opened up the garage door, and there's this thing. I'm like, wow, whose is this? And I go, oh, it's Dr. Lewis's. I'm like, oh, that's what all the stitches I got went for.
Yeah. Well, there also was the Bazzanati. Was it Carl Bazzanati? Had a gas station right next to, on 6A too.
Yeah, it's now. I think it's right next to where the realtor is.
Yeah,
Yes.
right
Yeah.
next to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
Gorley.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and the Yankee Clipper, where they had their get together after they were married. I'm not knowing particularly whether that would have still be owned by the Brazzanatis or perhaps Bob Gianfranti. There was.
Yeah, I'm not sure when
I'm
that.
not sure
when that
which family
changeover
owned
hap-
it
yeah.
when the changeover was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are married, and along comes John
Yeah.
and Bob.
Little Johnny
Little
and
John
Bobby.
and little
Little Johnny and Bobby. That's it.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, we lived on Charles Street.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
Yeah.
we did on Charles Street, right when the Weavers lived right there, and the Hendys were across the street in the
yes.
big yellow building.
Yeah.
Before they went out to Pheasant Lane, like
Gotcha.
everybody else went to Pheasant Lane. You know?
Oh, yeah.
But we were. That's where we lived. They rented that house from Michael Finnety's parents, because they owned the house because his dad was in the Air Force
Okay.
and had been stationed at Otis, and had been sent over to. At that point, I think he was sent back over to Europe. And,
Europe or maybe
so they
50s, maybe Korea. Yeah.
they rented out the house, and my parents we lived
That
in
was
that house.
their
yeah.
initial place where they
Yeah.
settled. Yeah.
Yep.
And do you remember living there?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Vaguely, it's very vague. I was,
How many years older are you, John, than Bob?
I'm 2 years older.
Oh, only 2 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. When did you move to that wonderful historic house on Water Street?
We were 4. I was 4 or 5. That
Yeah,
ballpark.
So it was around
63 or 64.
I always thought it was 63, but
Yeah.
I always thought we were in there in 63.
So it was, it would have been. It was 63 or 64.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe? I mean, the house is wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you tell our viewers where it's located, and tell us a little bit about the inside and the structure itself, if you will.
Go ahead.
Well,
I just feel like I'm doing most of the talking.
It's all good,
I
though.
don't want to shut you out.
I enjoy
No.
listening. Don't worry about it. It's on Water Street, 5 Water Street. It's right next to the Dunbar Tea Room.
Right across. Right.
Right next to, right across the street, what used to be the Thornton Burgess Museum, or the Gould's house before that, I think it was.
Yes, it was.
was
It
the
was
rest
home.
rest
yes.
home.
Rest
Yeah.
home, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. My mom used to tell me it was a French Victorian, but I don't think it really was. It's more of a
It's more of an Italian age.
Italianate design.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a mix of both.
Suppo-
What has always interested me with that house is you have 2 front doors.
Yeah.
What was that all about, I wonder?
The
Well,
unknown. I mean, we can speculate all day long.
Yeah.
The guy that built that house, he brought it from Nantucket on a barge.
Oh, that wasn't originally built there?
No.
Yeah, it was in
Oh, I didn't know that.
Nantucket. He brought it over here. He was a ship's captain. He's buried up in East Sandwich Cemetery there, Cedarville Cemetery.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, can't remember what his name is off the top of my head. It's right on the house.
it is on. I'm trying
Yeah.
to blank
Yeah,
on it
that's
now.
okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he brought it over, and it was brought on a barge into the old harbor,
Mm-hmm.
and then rolled. And when they say it was rolled, the parts were rolled. It was
Yes.
taken
It was
apart and then
Multiple
rebuilt.
pieces.
Yes,
Yeah.
it would have had to have been,
Yeah.
wouldn't you think? Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's,
And 1864 is when I think it was erected at its present location.
Here, at
Yes.
the original, so of course
Yeah.
it's older than that,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have to go over to Nantucket at some point and try to figure this out. I know there was a big fire in Nantucket in the 1850s, I want to say, in the Main Street area.
Okay.
And like the island, like people left the island because the place was devastated.
Jesus, yeah.
And, I mean, you know, not only was the whaling starting to go away at that point, but, you know, the whole downtown area in Nantucket had burned. So I don't know if that was what motivated him to bring it
Yes,
to Sandwich.
it
but-
somehow survived, and
Yeah.
perhaps he wanted to get it
Yeah.
out of there.
So we
yeah.
have no idea why it has two front doors.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
the left door. Well, it's hard to remember, but we always use the right door. But the left door, you go into that door. There's a semi-spiral staircase that goes
There
up
is.
to the second story, and that one also had a old bell that you press, which I don't know if the other side had it. The right side had it. So.
Okay, now, when you went on the right side, which you say you used more.
Yeah, we did at least.
Did that have a spiral, did that have a staircase also?
It has a staircase halfway through the house.
Okay.
And it's more of just a basic. It's a
Like
very
your typical.
Yeah.
skinny,
You
steep
can't get through,
staircase.
you can't bring
Oh,
anything
yes,
up there.
very,
But-
very steep.
But that one brings you up to basically the hallway upstairs, where the spiral one just brings you to a little balcony, two doors, one into the main bedroom and one into the side bedroom.
So interesting.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
You know, the two doors.
Yeah.
So that's where you grew up, in the center of town.
So here's a little tidbit about that.
Oh,
is
good.
Peter Thomas will tell the story if you ever see him.
Uh-oh, Peter, you better be listening.
His mother, when John Thomas came to take over the church,
Yep.
they wanted the property.
This is St. John's
St.
Church.
John's Church, yeah.
The Episcopal Church,
Yeah,
yes.
when they came to town, they were looking for property to buy, and that house was shown to them.
Oh.
And Mrs. Thomas said, I have, at that point, it was 4 boys, because Jane wasn't born
quite
yet.
born yet.
And Andrew didn't, obviously was after that, but she said, I am not living in a house across from a pond with those 4 boys.
Oh,
So she got her way, and
Gotcha.
they ended up buying that house down on Main Street.
yes.
And
yeah. Now
so,
we're
so my
talking-
parents grabbed it then.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Reverend John Thomas,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
who was the pastor in the St. John's Episcopal Church for 40 years. I
Forever.
would say.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
forever. Yes, a dearly, dearly beloved man in town. So you grew up in that house and in the center of town. I imagine that you didn't spend much time in the house. I imagine you were out into the community and doing stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me some things that that kept you busy those days, because we didn't have computers back then, and kids were out more. What did you do to keep busy?
Everything.
Street
We
water.
fished.
You
We
fished?
canoed in that pond.
Oh yeah.
We fished that pond to death. Pickerel and sunfish.
I remember Mom saying, "Don't swim in it.
Yeah.
But don't swim
Snapping
in it.
turtle, take your toe off." Remember that one all the time? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'd be snapping turtles. We all
Oh,
heard
yeah.
that story.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's true.
It is.
It is true.
There's
tons of them in there.
There are hundreds of snapping
And
turtles.
it's super
Tons,
shallow.
tons.
Lower Shawm is very
Yeah.
shallow.
So don't go
It used to
swimming.
be, because it used to be a creek.
Yeah,
And when they dammed it for the mill,
yes.
the water overflowed and took up the meadow or whatever you wanted to call it at that point.
That was a meadow at that point,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, you can get into that, what used to be the creek bed, and that's deeper there, but the rest of the pond is very, very shallow,
shallow.
and mucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go ice skating?
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
I couldn't skate to save my life. I was horrible.
Oh, you really?
I was
But
horrible,
Bob, you
but
were-
I went on the ice whenever I could.
I might have been a little better.
Yeah, you couldn't have been any worse.
Well, that's how I was going off it. But yeah, I was a little better. My ankles went everywhere, but
Yeah.
a lot of skating. We come home. Yeah, I'll do my homework later. Run across the street.
Yeah.
Had my Bobby Orr skates, which were yours, and
Yeah.
I ended up taking those over.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we used to skate all the time. Shoot pucks underneath Pope's dock.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So that's why you probably ended up not playing ice hockey, but I understand that both of you were really into soccer.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to play hockey.
Oh,
Too expensive.
too expensive.
Too expensive. That was what I was told.
Yes, with all the gear.
And then they probably didn't want me to get hurt too much. But I did. I wanted to play hockey a lot.
You did.
Oh yeah, because we used to play street hockey all the time.
We
up there.
Well, sure, yeah.
played street hockey all
Yeah.
the time.
And I
At
had
the
a-
wing school, up on
Burbank.
Burbank Street. We
Burbank.
played right on Burbank comes out on 130.
Yeah.
We played right there.
Yeah.
Right, oh, yeah,
Right there.
yeah, yeah. No cars, no
No,
problems.
two nets,
No.
two nets, and we had to move every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then it got too busy.
Yeah.
Then it did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did
Yeah.
get too busy, and we ended up going over when Angelo's was built, which is now Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
When that plaza was built, we were like, look at that parking lot. That's our new rink.
Yeah.
So we went over
yeah.
there and got kicked out promptly.
Oh.
I say we, the Doyles, the Mannings, the Scovilles, Myers, who else?
Well, Jeepers. That was it. You got
Lamborghini.
Lance Lamborghini. Yeah,
Lance Lamborghini.
Lance Lamborghini,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. But we went out, we went over there and we all got kicked out and we ended up on Leverage Lane. I think it was Leverage Lane.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a little quieter, not as many cars?
No,
or-
no, and you could, nobody, because when you just drove out into that, what used to be a pit, now
Yeah.
it's a development
Yeah, the
there.
dirt pit, and then-
So there was no traffic coming
Yeah,
down there
yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So that was a good place to go play. We didn't have to move the net as much.
It was good times though.
Yeah, yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
left the house and didn't come back to. I mean, it's so cliche to say that nowadays, but we left the house. She told us to get out of the house. And
Yeah.
Basically, and we'd come back at dark, and that's when we knew we had to be back at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never worried about you?
No.
No,
No.
no. I know that's how my family grew up too.
And we walked all the way. We'd walk all the way to Burbank, which
Yeah.
can be a little bit of a haul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there was no organized ice hockey at that point, was there? Or
No, not to my
Not
knowledge.
like it is now.
No,
It's-
not to my
it's-
knowledge.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
unbelievable.
those
Yeah.
once you get into high school, I think you had the hockey team. But
Yeah,
no
yeah.
organized.
The hockey team started in the mid-'70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, the only organized sport at that point, there was two things. There was the Little League,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
which Mr. and Mrs. Hendy put together.
Oh, they did.
And ran that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it was a lot of fun. Little League was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the Sandwich Rec, Billy Earl was in charge of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they would do, you do tennis, you do softball, you do whatever sport they could think of, they would do.
They would
and
do
put
it.
it on for you, and
Yes.
you could play. And
Now, where did you play? At the high school?
that was all done at the
Well,
wing. That was completely done at the wing school.
The
At
wing
the wing
school, yeah.
Yeah.
I say high school.
Yeah,
But
well.
that was grades. Was that grades 1 through 12 when you went?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It still was.
Yep.
Yeah.
You went grades 1 through 12
Yep.
at the HT Wing School.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we did. I think it was my sophomore year is when we moved into the new high school on Quaker Meeting House. My
Yep.
sophomore year.
Yeah, I was a freshman.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was first.
Well, then it would have been my junior
It
year.
would have been your junior year, because I was a freshman. Because I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
But wing. So we were at the wing school when the wing school had its double session crisis that went
yeah.
on.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
had all those buildings, which are they still there on V-Lab? All the
No,
portable buildings.
all the portables have
All
been
the-
torn down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the portables are gone. Yeah.
Portables are
yeah.
gone.
Yeah, that was sort of a stressful time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For our education.
Yeah, I just remember that they talked about moving us all over to Otis. into the old Army barracks. And there was
Yes.
such a brouhaha about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And none of the parents were for that at all, that I recall.
Yeah.
I know my parents weren't.
No, yeah.
And, you know, so we, but, you know, we made it through. We all did okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you did play soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a sport that Sandwich School
Yeah.
offered to you.
Yeah,
And you enjoyed that?
loved it.
Loved it.
Absolutely
It was
loved
a
it.
blast.
Yeah.
Started out
Yeah.
with, what was his name? Don Long.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
Mr. Long, yeah.
Mr. Long.
Don
Yeah.
Long, yeah.
He was
What a great
he was
guy.
coaching the junior high guys,
Yeah.
and at that time, and I think he might have coached the high school for a little bit, but at that point they had hired Harry Evans.
Oh, Harry Evans, okay.
So when I was like in 7th grade, Harry Evans was his first year, I think, as the coach for the high school team. But we had Don Long, and we played this archaic formation.
Kick and chase.
It was like, I mean, you know, I didn't get too technical about
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
it was a formation that nobody had used since like the 1920s. But that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
I mean, Americans didn't know how to play soccer.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was fun because you got to run and
And who doesn't like to run?
kick
And kick a ball.
kick a ball, and it was somewhat physical. So
Yes,
I mean,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
was a
soccer
good
field
game.
that soccer field had barely any grass on it either.
Yeah.
It was all eaten up.
Because of the use.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
because of
We called
using
it the rock pit.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. Now, at a certain point, you had different things that Mr. Evans had you do in terms of
Yeah.
preparing you for soccer games, different drills and things like that.
Yep.
And I think you shared with me a little prank that you played on him, which I think is just so cute.
Well, you know, the
I just tagged along.
yeah,
You
he
just-
just tagged
it
along.
really wasn't your fault. He was the instigator. Okay.
Well,
I was
No,
not the instigator.
no.
It was a
Group effort.
It was kind of a group effort. I mentioned Mike Finnerty. He was involved.
Oh, sure.
And one of the DeConto boys was involved.
Oh boy.
I'm not going to say which one.
Okay.
But it was Raymond. And
Okay.
Harry used to make us run, and he would put these ridiculous, impossible times on what we had to do. It was just to keep us, you know, running
Sure.
and pushing. And but he had a favorite little tree that he wanted us to run out and go around and come back. And he'd say, "You do it in 40 seconds, you're done." But you couldn't do it in 40 seconds. It was like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Or
It was
longer.
such a distance
Yeah,
to me.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
certainly,
So one night we were sick of that, and one night we grabbed a saw and a shovel, and we went out there and we cut the tree down and we moved it about 50 yards closer to the field, and dug a hole and stuck the tree in the hole. And it was an evergreen tree, so
Yeah.
it was.
You wouldn't be able to-
It wouldn't look dead.
Yeah.
For
It'd take
a while.
Yeah, yeah.
So we go out there at the next practice, and you know, Harry's like, you've got 55 seconds to get around that tree and get back here. And we run, and we're like, me and Finnerty are laughing our full head off, you know, and we're back in like 40 seconds. And he's like flabbergasted. He
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
figure out what happened. And it took him a few minutes to figure it out, and then he was like,
Yeah.
good, you know,
Yeah.
GD,
Do
blah,
it.
blah, blah.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Next thing we know, we're running up and down one of those stupid little hills behind the goals,
Okay.
you know.
So you paid for it.
We did pay for it, yeah.
It didn't quite work.
Yeah, it didn't quite
No,
work.
it
It worked
Yeah.
once.
He
It-
caught
it-
on
yeah.
quite quickly.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
It was-
the
Yeah.
stump sticking out of the ground probably didn't help much either.
Yeah.
But hey,
Yeah.
it was dark out. We didn't.
Yeah. Well, and I hope the statute of limitations is over on that, right? I believe it is.
Oh, I would think.
I would
Yeah.
like to think
Yeah.
so.
It has
We're,
to better
we're,
be.
we're
Yeah.
up there in age now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're okay on that. Yeah.
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 But yeah, that was, you know, but we all loved Harry Evans as
Yeah.
a coach. We really did, all of us. And I mean, he was very difficult to please,
Oh,
but he always was pushing you to do your best and to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And
Hey.
I mean, what a life lesson.
Yeah,
It was great.
exactly.
A lot of
Yeah.
stuff. A lot of stuff you take out. Like maybe you don't get it. Obviously, you don't get it sometimes right at the beginning. 5, 10 years down the road, you're, you know, just like what your parent, you know, you're passing stuff on to your kids. So your parents teach you, but also passing stuff on that I'm like, oh wow, yeah, Coach was right about that. You
So
know,
that was
Yeah.
that's what it was all about.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true, isn't it?
It
Bob?
is.
Yeah.
People that you admire, you look up to, whether it's your parents or coaches or teachers, you end up pulling some of that.
Yeah, and you find that maybe you're using some of that with your children. You know.
At times.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
to.
We both coached soccer for,
Oh,
you know,
you did?
yeah, so I know, I saw him coach, so I know he's following in Harry's footsteps a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I did it, you know, I coached, and it was all from what I learned and how I was taught, and, you know, about, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's good life lessons.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of growing up in a small town, like it was back when I'm older than you, for sure. But I grew up in Sandwich too, and growing up, I wouldn't exchange it for anything. You talk about life lessons and you know caring for other people. You knew everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when someone was, for instance, ill or sick, you cared about that, you know, and you helped them out and things like that. I'm certain that's, you know, obviously happening now too. But there was something special back then in Sandwich, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone, like you said, everyone knew everyone, and, you know, so it was a great time to grow up. It was a great town to grow up in.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Wonderful.
Yeah.
Can we spin back and to
Of course.
like my grandparents?
Yes, that's what we're going to touch on next.
Because we skipped over the whole snack bar thing.
No, that's what we're getting to next.
Okay, all right,
Oh,
all
big
right.
time.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the bakery that's burning down. too.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. I want to talk about, well, first let's talk about your grandfather. That would be Clarence Cahoon.
Yes.
And we'll talk about your grandmother, Mildred Cahoon, just in a little while. But let's talk about your grandfather, Clarence Cahoon.
Clarence Cahoon is or was a from the Cahoons of Cape Cod, you know, but he was born in Fairhaven. His father worked on the railroad, and that's where a lot of them ended up in Wareham and Fairhaven for whatever reason, where the railroad was running back then.
Sure.
So he was born in Fairhaven, lived in Brockton, and returned to the Cape in the, best I can figure, is early 1930s.
Okay.
And he had been a baker, a limousine driver, worked in a candy factory when he was younger up in Brockton. Graduated Brockton High School, and he married Mildred, and they came back to the Cape, and that was just prior to World War II. In World War II, he was all over the place. Too old to serve at that point, and but he worked. I found this out relatively recently, so I haven't even been able to like bounce it off anybody because they've all passed.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But he worked in a shipyard someplace, and I'm assuming it was in Hingham. Hingham had a shipyard. It's close enough to Brockton. In Brockton, there used to be a trolley that ran from Brockton out to that area. Hull in that area, so he would have had transportation to get out there. And I know that they were building landing craft at a shipyard.
Yeah.
in
Because
the
again, this is at the beginning of World War II.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, my mother at that point was born. She was born in 30.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
39 maybe.
39, perhaps.
Yes, 39. And she was in New Hampshire with her maternal grandmother, because that's where Mildred ended up living. They lived in Hyannis for a very, very short period of time, because I got all the letters from 5 of her brothers were in the military and deployed overseas.
5 of your
5.
grandmother, Mildred Cahoon's brothers.
Right,
Wow.
5 of them. And they all wrote letters,
Yes.
and she saved them. I've been through them all.
Oh, what a treasure.
You know, it was
Oh, boy.
absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
It's, you know, you're piecing things together because you don't have the whole story, because
Yep.
you don't have the return letters that they're referring to. But they all wrote, and they all have wonderful stories of their own about their service in World War II.
Wow.
Amazing stuff.
Yes,
Really
yes.
amazing stuff.
What
What a generation that was.
Oh,
I mean, we get off track easily.
We get up,
but
I know, but, you know, Tom Brokaw in The Greatest, you know, Generation, it's true, isn't it? Yeah.
But I actually have a couple of my mother's ration books from World War II also,
Yeah.
and that's the address that's on them, is up in New Hampshire, and then crossed out, and then they were in Bourndale.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So they really did travel around.
Yeah,
which
they
wasn't
did. They were all-
unusual during those times, I don't think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we never knew. You know, I mean, my grandmother, I don't know. I guess, you know, it was just the way it was, you know, and there wasn't going to, I remember she had her brothers over, and there was never any talk about the
Yeah.
war.
No.
You know, there was
They did
never any
not.
talk about it.
No.
And
No.
one of the brothers was actually on an aircraft carrier that got kamikazed and almost sank, and he was listed as missing in action for a period of time. And I found the documents online. When actually he shows up on the roster again as alive.
Having been missing, MOA, missing in action.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So they never
Yeah.
talked about it.
No,
No, not at all.
No, that's I think a commonality
Yeah.
of most men
But
and
if I had
women.
known more about it, I would have asked some more questions.
Isn't that
Certainly.
always the way?
Yeah.
You know, shoulda, coulda, I know.
Yeah.
Asking our relatives and our ancestors more, you know, before they did die. So,
Well, anyways, Clarence's
your grandfather
Clarence's
settled in
family, that
Sandwich.
whole, they settled in Sandwich, but that whole family, the Cahoons, all across Cape Cod, they all come from one guy. His name was William, and he was one of the founders of Chatham.
Okay.
And his father was the first Cahoon in the colonies, or not the colonies, well, he might have been in the colonies, but in Massachusetts. And he came because he was a Scottish prisoner of war during the English Civil War. Cromwell had captured a whole Scottish army at the Battle of Dunbar.
Sure.
And he had like 5,000 prisoners, didn't know what to do with them. He sold them to people for work, which was a normal thing
Sure.
back then. So William Cahoon is put on a boat called the Unity and sent over here as an indentured servant. 8 years it would take him to pay off. So people were making money off him the whole,
Yes,
you know.
the indenture.
Yeah, and that boat sent people to southern York County, Maine, where they did lumber, Saugus, where they worked at the iron mill, and then the South Shore got a very small amount. They worked at a quarry up in Quincy, a brickworks in Taunton, which is where William ended up.
Oh,
He worked at a brickworks in Taunton, and allegedly also in a quarry, but I can't prove that yet. And then he ended up in Block Island, which was part of Rhode Island colony at that time, and he was considered one of the founders, even though he was still indentured when he was there. And he left there, married, and started having children, moved to the Rehoboth area, and was killed in the opening days of King Philip's War by the Indians.
Yeah.
And
Oh, what an interesting
it's
history.
amazing.
Oh
It's
my
absolutely
gosh.
amazing.
It is amazing,
Yeah.
isn't it so interesting
Yeah.
when you start going back and you start learning things, you know, about your you know, ancestors. Bring us to your grandfather. You wanted to talk about him. I think that's very important. How he started. He was a businessman in Sandwich. How did he start out?
Well, I found out not that long ago, maybe a couple of years at this point, he was selling fruit. He had a truck, and he would get fruit, and I'm not sure where he was getting it, but
Yep.
I'm sure, you know,
Maybe
off the
up in
railroad
Boston.
probably, but
Yeah, or whatever.
he was they used to live on, or they rented a house down on Main Street area, down by where John Lewis had his office.
Oh, yes.
The one in the 150s, and I'm not sure which house it is, but because the census doesn't list the house number.
Yeah,
Just
back
says
then,
Main Street.
yeah.
Just says Main Street. But one of the Van Buskirks told me that he remembers going to the house and seeing all the fruit stacked up in the shed out back or the garage out back. And so he was doing that, and then he apparently opened a bakery in what was called the Russell Block at the time. And in 1937, and I'm not sure when he opened it, and I don't know if you have any insight on that.
I do not.
It burned. It burned down, and it was a relatively big fire, burned out the whole block, and he lost, you know, at that time, $10,000 worth of equipment, flour, and produce or whatever else he had in there.
Had in there,
Yeah. And
you know, it's so, when you first told me that, John, you know, you alluded to, and you know, just to quickly tell the story, my grandfather did have a market. He started up in 1915, and Russell's Market, and he did rent out different sections of the building to other people, and I did not know. You found the paper that talked about it. That has never been known in our family as we were growing up. The fact that you brought that paper to me, saying how you know, his bakery caught fire and burned down, and a lot of my grandfather's store did too. That was not part of what we ever knew. It was really surprising to me. Isn't that something?
it is.
So there now his bakery is gone.
It's gone, and I'm not sure what he's doing at that point.
Yes, right.
But he, then we transitioned into World War II, which we talked about a little bit, and he was all over the place. And he worked in the shipyard. And he worked on Camp Edwards too.
Like a lot of people.
So after the war, in 46, I want to say it was 46, he opened a snack bar, which is now what's that, a home health aid place? But it used to be the Thayer Pharmacy, Sandwich Pharmacy, Thayer, O'Keefe.
Yeah, but your grandfather's building was there first.
Yeah.
And then
he bought it from the Olga Liberty, I believe.
I bet he, yes,
Yeah.
And of course, then after that came Al Keefe's Pharmacy and then Thayer Pharmacy.
Yeah.
But so that people that are listening to us, so that was situated, your grandfather's snack bar. And what was it called?
Cahoon's Snack Bar.
I believe so, yeah.
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 But he might have called it, I think, you know, most people would have known it as Cax.
Yes.
Because that was his nickname.
Yeah, everybody called him Cat.
Cat,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was situated on Route 6A, next to where the, I don't know, Chevron station is
Well,
now?
it used to be Exxon.
Exxon, or
I think it was
whatever.
Chevron before Exxon.
It was Chevron originally, but I remember
Yeah.
Chevron in the 70s.
Now, did he build that? He was so handy with...
He was very handy.
Yes.
I don't believe so, because I believe I saw a document that said he bought the property in the building thereon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was some sort of building
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something, but I want to say he added something
Oh my
to
gosh,
it, because
yes.
when he left there, at one point he had Hayden Movers move part of that building, became my uncle's house down on Route 6A, down next to Aunt Sally's.
Yes,
Yeah.
next to Aunt Sally's house. Yes, yeah. So part of that building was the original Cax snack bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great place. You know, that was really a village sort of hangout. I know you don't remember much of it because you were too small, but I remember it really, really well. And everyone hung out there. Everyone, he had great food. I do remember walking in, your grandmother, who we'll be talking a little more about, Mildred. When you first walked in the door, she had a whole section before you actually walked into the snack bar of, for sale, Ginny dolls. And I remember those so well. That was the doll that we all wanted, you know, girls growing up at that age. And I think it was probably about like $10. You know, that was a lot of money during those days. Yeah, I happened to look on the web, knowing that I was going to have this little chat with you. They're now, which I don't have mine anymore, of course.
Of course.
Of course. They're selling for over $250 now.
Really?
Yeah. So do you know how long he had the snack bar?
My understanding was 64 was when it closed.
Okay, 64.
So like 46 to 64. I'm not 100% sure, but I've also, my understanding was summers only.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do believe that's the
Yeah.
case, yes.
And summer around
Yeah.
here can mean different things to different people,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so probably say Memorial Day to Labor Day,
Mm-hmm.
anyways.
Yeah. Was he still baking any place?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, he was baking there.
He was
I'm
baking
sure.
there too.
I'm sure it was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
He used to make a lot of cakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, your grandmother, Mildred Cahoon, tell us a little bit about her, what you remember of her.
She loved her art.
She loved her art.
She loved her art. She worked at the Sandwich Glass Museum for years as a volunteer. there,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe we can show, we have, Bob brought some of Mildred's paintings, and perhaps we can show them. She really was very talented.
Yeah.
So you can see them here. So isn't it lovely that you've
Oh,
been
yeah.
you're able to have some of her paintings that were left to you? And she left both of these to you.
Yep,
Yes.
these two, and then I got a few more at the house too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
These are my favorite, so.
yeah. I really like that primitive too.
Yeah, it's folky. It's,
Yes.
folk art. Yeah, it's nice.
Folk arty, yes.
Yeah.
So she worked at the Glass Museum too.
As a volunteer. Yeah.
Yeah,
As a
she was.
volunteer, yep.
Yeah. Used to
Yep.
clean the glass.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
That was a pretty responsible kind of job. Let's
She
face
said it was very stressful.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you didn't want to break anything.
Yes.
And you had to learn where to pick up each different piece. So they all had different centers of gravity and
Yep.
weak spots. And you learned that. And or somebody told you and you figured it out, or you figured it out.
Yeah.
So that, she did that for many years. She worked at not Dunbar's, Butner's.
Oh, she did.
She worked at
She
Butner's.
worked with the ladies at Butner's.
She worked
yes.
at Butner's while it was on Jarvis Street, and then when it moved up to D'Angelo's
Yep.
Plaza, she
Plaza, yeah.
she worked up there for a few years too.
Yes.
Then they had their gift shop at their house down in East Sandwich.
She moved and had, now your grandfather and grandmother's house did have like a little, sort of like a barn attached
Yeah.
to it?
To the left of
To
it,
the
yeah.
left of it?
Yeah.
Is that where she had her gift shop?
Yeah, that was where the
Yes.
gift shop was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the paintings, Grandpa Cack made tables. I still have a coffee table at my house that he built. We both have, I think all of our two cousins, they all get the trunk.
We have a trunk.
He
Yeah,
built
he
the
made a
trunk.
little wooden trunk.
Oh, he
Wooden
made
trunk,
trunks,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
with our
Yeah.
names on them. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have that. I still have a table. And,
He was quite extraordinary in terms of he never gave up. I mean, you shared with me a story that he was doing some work on his house.
I was, yeah, had to redo he had to shingle the roof of the house.
The roof.
The roof, yeah. So my father and I went over. I don't know if you were there. I think you were in college at the time.
probably in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was up there in age, but you know what? He had his overalls on every day. He had his little fold-out. I remember the fold-out tape measure that he had, and I remember Rema didn't want him getting up there on the ladder.
No.
Nope. But he was going to get up there anyways, and we were getting up there, and it was on the back side over near the back patio, and he fell off the roof. But
Oh, he did?
yeah, yeah. He was fine. He was okay
Okay.
with it. Yeah, but he's yeah. And,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I-
But
I-
even at that age, he was up there trying to do everything. You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it's amazing.
part of the generation, I think, a little bit.
The thing that we haven't shared yet with your grandparents was their relationship with Aunt Sally.
Yeah.
And
That's a rabbit hole we'll go down. We'll never come out of.
She said 45 minutes.
Yeah, I know. It's another hour.
Yeah.
yes, of course, we're talking about Rebecca Alice Cook,
Yeah.
who became Aunt Sally through Thornton Burgess's book. Okay. What was
Not
the
sure
relationship?
how it started, but
Uh-huh.
he ended, probably because he was a baker and had leftover bread all the time, he started taking all his leftovers up to, I don't know how they met or what, because, this, maybe, I don't know, maybe she stopped at his snack bar and asked him, but
Yeah.
he used to bring up all the bread that she would feed to all her animals that she would feed every night. All the raccoons, skunks, possums, every other critter that came in there.
That came in the house,
Right,
yeah.
and he met Thornton Burgess, and Thornton Burgess was very appreciative of the care that he was exhibiting towards Aunt Sally,
Yes.
and would write him on a continual basis.
No, sir,
Write
yeah.
him and Mildred on a continual basis.
Yeah.
And they, so when, so they, he was there all the time, quite frequently, and helped her as best he could.
Good,
She was a
yeah.
very stubborn, independent woman.
Yes.
So
doesn't-
there was some limitation to that, but
He was probably very thankful that your parents sort of kept him in the loop, because they lived just 2 houses down.
Yeah.
Or at that point, just 1 house down.
yeah.
They could probably walk through their backyard, could they, or to get
Well,
to her house?
I mean, at that time, they were still living above the snack bar.
Oh, they were, okay.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was before they built their
Yeah,
house?
yeah, that was,
Okay.
they didn't build that house to the late 50s,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, okay.
mid to late 50s, yeah.
Yeah.
So she probably was very beholden to him for that, because I don't think she was a very wealthy woman at all.
No.
And for her to have to buy that to be able to feed the animals,
No,
probably would have been,
Oh,
she
that-
wouldn't have been able to.
That was all given to her.
Yeah. So the case of, at least from the stories you've heard from your grandparents, the stories that Thornton Burgess was very close with Alice Cook and helped her out, and of course put her in his stories about calling her Aunt Sally, were true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they were very
Yeah.
close.
they were.
Yeah.
We had a ton of books all signed. We had all the Thornton, we had a good amount of Thornton Burgess books, and they were signed by him.
Well, that is something that I did want to say too. That both of you very kindly have given a lot over to the archives of the things that you had, the documents, the photos, the different
Yeah,
things that.
Vast majority of the letters went to the archives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, after my parents had passed and I was emptying out their house, I found a trunk that was full of Thornton Burgess stuff, full, and I had no idea it was in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Now that must have been transferred from your grandmother and grandfather's house to your parents'
Yes.
house.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. And so of course you probably didn't know it was there either.
No. Didn't
No.
know. Had no
Yeah,
idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was in. I knew the trunk was there, but I had no idea what was in the
What was
trunk.
in it?
'Cause I wasn't going to go like dig into, move everything to get to that trunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had to at that point, because getting everything out. But I was amazed when I opened it up, and I was like, wow, holy, look at these pictures.
Yeah.
And then there was a proof manuscript in there, and some other interesting things, and all those letters.
Yep.
So yeah, my grandmother, thank God she saved all that stuff.
Yes.
I know.
She saved a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Some people have an
Yeah.
appreciation
Yeah.
for what
Yeah.
Future generations will want to know about, and some don't. You were lucky enough
Yeah.
that your grandmother Mildred did. Yeah. Yeah.
So
this is-
anyway, we were talking about Mildred.
Yes.
We didn't give
I'd
like
like
the
to-
backstory on her a little bit, but
Please.
she grew up in western Maine, on the area of Bridgeton, Maine. But her family is from French Canada, and they were clothing workers, and they came to the United States to work in the mills up in the north. And Emery was their name.
Emery.
Emery,
Her maiden name.
her maiden name,
Okay,
Emery.
Emery, yeah.
Yeah, and she where did she graduate from? Was it Wilton Academy or something, which is nearby to where Bridgeton is. I've been up to Bridgeton, seen the house that she grew up in, and all that. And but I'm not clear on how they met, but they they got married in New Hampshire, and I'm not sure why he was in New Hampshire at that point.
Yep.
I just don't know 100%. I suspect it might have something to do with the railroad. The railroad was a bigger deal than it is nowadays, and a lot of people worked for it and took people places that they may never have gone otherwise. And, but that's speculation on my part. And so they ended up together back on the Cape in the at least just prior to 1935, anyways, according to the documentation that I can get my hands on.
You've done a lot of background work, haven't you, John?
I've tried, yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
It's a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time keeping it all straight, I'll tell you.
Really. Yeah.
Actually, I have my phone, so if I had to go on Ancestry and double check something.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, this has been. Is there anything else that we have left out that you want to share?
Tons and tons of stuff.
Oh, it's just,
I know we could talk for hours.
Yeah, it's just a small town. The great part of being in a small town when you grow up. I mean, it's just 4th of July parades, which started from the school now and go all the way around. But before it was just going down Jarvis Street.
That's right, Jarvis Street.
You start at the top of Jarvis Street, you end down the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
And
or vice versa.
Was it the other way around?
Yeah, you start at the railroad tracks and ended up the square.
And I know my mom loved to dress us up.
Yes.
It was
Like what
so embarrassing.
What would you dress up as?
One year we had to wear white tights, and my mom made swan heads for us out of paper mache and cardboard and whatnot. And so we had white tights on as two young boys with little things wrapped around our head with the swan.
And we dragged a red wagon with all the little baby swans in it.
Okay, no, you know too much because I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
Was that to do sort of because you lived across from the pond?
Most likely, and
she
the
thought
swans there
that
every
was-
year,
Yes.
And she loved to make that stuff. So.
Oh, yes,
And then another year we were. I was Pinocchio, he was Geppetto.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Geppetto.
Those are the two I remember of dressing up.
And you would walk in the parade?
Oh yeah, we won. Well, we won first prize.
Did you really see that?
Yeah, we had the ribbons for years.
Yeah.
I still have the ribbons.
They're up in the box.
It's like, I wonder what the Walker Boys are going to be this year. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
we were Indians one time.
Oh, I remember the Indians. Yeah, she made it all out of felt.
All felt.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we
Very
had the
clever.
Headband.
Very clever.
The headband, and you had the brown braids.
Yeah.
Would
Oh, you
not
had
be-
braids, John.
Would not be politically correct nowadays to do that.
Well, you did, yes. If you were going to do it, you better do it right.
Did it right.
Yeah.
And then
Then we graduated up to just
Bikes.
decorate our bicycle and
bikes.
ride our bikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
those are the costumes I remember. Yeah, the swan
Oh,
thing,
that's
that was
wonderful.
embarrassing.
But it was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
and everyone did it. It was
Yes,
everyone
they
did it.
did.
And it was
They did.
small enough town to where everyone it was appreciated.
Yes.
And then the other one would be the Christmas lights, Jarvis
Christmas
Street,
lights.
across all the way down Jarvis Street.
Yeah.
When we had the trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So those little
Yeah.
things,
Mr. Karen, Edgar Karen.
Edgar Karen, yeah.
Yeah.
Used to do that for us. The town used to. I don't know if they hired him to do it or he just volunteered. I suspect he probably
I
volunteered.
bet he volunteered.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he did. And of course they're trying to replicate that now, which is admirable, but there are no trees left, or there are hardly any trees
Yeah.
left. Yes, and Memorial Day, of course, 4th of July was a happy time, and we dressed
Yes.
up in
Oh, yeah.
But Memorial Day, I can remember, see what your memories are of it. It's very solemn,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
It was kind of a big deal for
It was.
our house because my father was he worked for the American Legion as he didn't work for him, but he was in the honor guard and the rifle squad.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and but he generally was the honor guard because he would carry the. Did he do the American flag or the Legion flag?
Oh,
Trying to remember the
Legion
pictures
flag.
now.
Yeah. I think the American flag, and that was a big deal for him.
Yeah.
You know, because you know he was very much a patriotic person, and the we loved it because we could go, you know, run around like little animals and pick up the shell casings.
We get we get to be able to. Back then, you could stand behind them and then fight each other for the shell casings.
For the shell
after-
casings, yeah, when they did the.
And that was Carl
the-
Justice. Carl Justice was the Mr. Justice was the head of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
He marched
God,
down.
yes, remember Carl?
Yeah,
Carl
and
Justice.
Mr. Winslow was in it all the
Mr.
time because
Winslow,
Mr.
yeah,
Winslow and my
Jack-
dad were great friends.
Yeah,
Jack
was Mr.
Winslow.
Morrow.
Gene Morrow.
Gene
yeah.
Morrow.
Yeah.
Gene Morrow, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you ask about you know, us in town. Again, we could go on forever, but
I know.
Alvises,
Yeah.
Morrows, Winslows, and Crowells, friends with all of them
Yeah.
when we
Yes.
were younger. You know.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
if we did steal apples from Mr. Crow's.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Nothing.
Rumor
Rumor has it that
rumor.
you stole some apples.
I don't
yeah.
think there's any pictures of that.
No, there's no pictures.
No video.
Yeah,
We're
well, we
good.
won't tell anybody. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they really, it was really good times. It truly was. I can really hear that from you. And to see the, for instance, in Memorial Day, to see the various soldiers, because there were a lot of them then
Yes.
still alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
To see them marching in their uniforms, and you know, at that point we had the Plymouth Band. Remember, the Plymouth Band
Yeah.
would come down, and it was quite an occasion. You know, it really meant something
It did.
to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your love of the country, your love for the people who fought for it, and you know, and it was all on display back then.
It was, Bob. Yeah.
And everyone had they loved their country. Well, you know, it was a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should
Yeah.
say, yeah. Anything else before we close? I know we could go on forever. I'd love to go on
Trying to
forever.
remember
Yeah.
some other things.
You can bring us back for part 2 if
Maybe
you
we
want.
can come back for part
Part
two.
2, high school years.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we don't want to go too far into the high school years.
When
it's
when
just-
we talked with Jimmy and Matt and Kathy Ellis,
Yeah.
and oh gosh, we had a fun time. But they said the same thing. I mean, you could go on forever.
You could.
Yeah.
We probably have to get back to them and have a part 2 also.
Yeah, you definitely could. Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's just so much. I mean, just so many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but I used to go through Quill Hollow. I was good friends with Kim Pola.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I used to go over to her house or her grandparents' house all the time, and we just walk all the way up Sean Pond, all the way up to
All
the
the
falls. Just great things, stuff
Yeah.
that you would do that you know, people don't really do that much anymore.
No.
But yeah, there's so many other things that you can think of. But
Ice fishing.
oh yes,
That was a big thing for us.
Yes.
Ice fishing.
Because we had like real ice back then.
Well, yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did have real ice
Yeah.
back then. Yes.
Not only the skating,
Yeah.
but the ice fishing.
Yeah. Did you said perch and
Well, at that point in lower Sean Pond,
Yeah.
there was pickerel, catfish, and sunfish.
oh,
And-
I
and-
got it
and
wrong.
perch.
Okay.
Well, I'm not
I caught
100%
a few.
sure.
I did catch
the
a few.
perch. I think.
Those-
okay.
I think the
Pickerel's really
perch
where you
fell,
go.
fell out of the upper pond. I think is what happened.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah. But
Did you cook them? Did you use them? Did your mother cook them?
the pickerel, we ate a couple.
pickerel.
Yeah.
Because you could pickerel would get big enough that you could eat
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Sunfish,
The other
go,
ones were just-
sunfish go
you
back
can't.
in the water.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
catfish, they weren't the biggest ones. You know, you see
Yeah.
some people.
You just threw them back.
Yeah, you just throw them back.
It was just fun to catch them.
Yeah.
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 But
yeah.
we'd ice fish across the street, but we'd ice fish Peters Pond,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Hoxie Pond.
Hoxie Pond, and Peter. I always thought it was Hoxie Pond, but he's correct. We caught a trout out of a rainbow out of Peters Pond.
Did you?
It was probably one of the biggest trout my dad ever caught because he ended up brought it to a taxidermist, had a model made out of it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
How
a
about
big-
how long?
It was a big
It's
fish.
about this big. It's right
Yeah,
above it's right
for
above my
sure?
computer. I'll take a picture. It's right above my computer right now. It's still on
Yeah.
the wall.
No, I'm
it's,
just kidding.
but yeah,
Yeah.
well, no, this big.
Yeah.
I remember
yeah.
the ice that day was so thick. We had an auger, and the auger wasn't cutting it, and we ended up with an axe chopping, to get through the ice, and it was so goddamn. Yeah, here I go. Can you edit that out? It was so cold. The ice was freezing back over.
Before you could
Yeah.
make the hole all the way through.
Or even when you put your bait down.
Oh, got you.
You know,
Got you,
the
yeah.
wall, it would start to freeze up. And that fish was so heavy, when we pulled it out, and it took a while to get it up and out,
Yeah.
the fishing line had abraded on the ice at the edge, and
Trying to pull it out.
when it
Yes.
came out, the line broke, and the fish bounced like next to the hole. And it was, you could see how big it was, and because you get really excited when you
Oh,
see something
you
that
must
big.
have been
Oh, God, yeah.
astounded.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was, I remember the ice, how thick it was, and, you know.
That was
I mean, if there's anything, whether you believe in global warming or not, we had ice, and we had like ice. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
we skated
Yeah.
for months on end.
Yeah.
The poor kids nowadays, I mean, it hardly ever ices over.
it hardly doesn't.
No,
The
no.
ground-
Well,
the
another
ground
thing
doesn't
that we
freeze
used to
as
do
much
a
as-
lot of was hunting.
Yes.
And I remember being in that marsh with cakes of ice sitting
Yes.
up on the top of the marsh.
Yes.
We'd be out there duck hunting, and we don't see that anymore.
No.
No.
We used to go pheasant hunting with Mr. Winslow.
Oh, you
did? We'd go there 20 minutes before sunset, we'd be there at Sandy Neck. They used to stalk there with the pheasant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we used to go hunting there, then duck hunting. On Scorton Creek, we did duck hunting one time. We never had a dog. We were really brilliant of us. And I remember one time we were
We
on
dropped one on the other side of
on
the
other
creek.
side of the creek, and we no way we're going to get it. No way we're going to get it.
Without a dog, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And then he'd bring us up to go hunting off of the service road for partridge and quail, which I never saw one ever.
Ever.
I don't think they're here anymore. But
I saw quail one
yeah,
time.
I never did.
One time.
Yeah.
I saw more deer than I knew what to do with during
Yes.
bird season,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
never during deer season.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
were great times.
Yeah.
They were. They were.
Yeah, we went ice fishing one other time. Now you get me.
No, I got you going.
We put out. I don't know, we put out like way too many. It was the three of us, and we put out more than 3 traps. And it was one of the few times that more than 3 traps went up at once. So we're all running all over the place in the pond trying to figure out.
Fun.
Yeah, good
Oh.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A thermos
Good,
of
clean
coffee
fun.
or
Yeah.
hot chocolate, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why people say there was nothing to do. Well, there was plenty of stuff to do, and it was all fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wouldn't trade it for the world.
It was being outside. It was good, clean fun and,
Yeah.
and getting exercise and,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have, and I
Yeah,
think
I
our
did.
viewers are going to. And we'll have to think about coming back for a second go. But for now, I'd like to thank again SCTV. We're in their studio, and it's just lovely, for filming this for us. And we'll be back again with another Tell Me a Story at some point. Thank you very much.